Hi everyone, it's Ravi, the Junior Explorer. I'm back with the team from Beyond Lithium to discuss their recent news release. I'd like to welcome back to the channel President and CEO Allan Frame and VP of Exploration Lawrence Tsang.
Thank you, Ravi. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Seems like we're making a habit out of these interviews. This marks 4 consecutive months we've talked about updates, and it seems like I'm going to have to just buy a place up in the Air Falls district and kind of plant myself there. So, massive news release yesterday, and I'm going to go straight to the headline. Beyond Lithium, and I'm just going to scroll here. Beyond Lithium announces up to 5.11% lithium oxide at its last resort pegmatite, and up to 3.48 lithium oxide at its Bounty Gold Pegmatite from Spodumene Pegmatite grab samples at Victory Project. And a couple of highlights I wanted to kind of mention. Grab samples at last resort, assayed up to 5.11% lithium oxide. Grab samples at Bounty, assayed up to 3.48% lithium oxide. Additional 32 grab samples and 28 channel samples from the Victory still to come. Drilling and trenching exploration permit expect to be submitted by the end of the year. And it seems like only yesterday Beyond Lithium actually optioned this Victory project. Actually, the date was October 10th. Fast forward to just over a month later, and here we are with news release of assays showing Bonanza grade lithium. Allan, how gratifying is it to see how quickly the Beyond team has been able to achieve such great results in a short period of time at the Victory project?
Well, extremely gratifying, but as I've been saying all along, we're blessed with in my view, some pretty exceptional team members. Our geos led by Lawrence and Paul Baxter and Graham Evans are doing an awesome job, but our prospectors are very aggressive. They're firstly they're very intelligent, and once we got this property lined up, they went at it really hard. So yeah, to advance this far and come out with an announcement like this in 30 days is pretty remarkable. Yeah, I've never doubted their talents, but this is pretty obvious proof of what I've been saying all along. It's a really exceptional team, and it is a team. Everybody pitches in on this. There's nobody, going off on their own doing this or doing that. It's just a really good effort by everyone. So my hat's off to everybody in the team. We've got the two prospectors and the three geos that are, in my view, they're just doing a bang up job for shareholders. So I'm very, very pleased with it all.
Okay. And I'd like to move directly into the Bounty Gold Pegmatite. From the October news release, this pegmatite was initially outlined to be approximately 50 meters in width and exposed to 300 meters in length at surface. The Bounty pegmatite may have grown since then. At its widest part, it's now up to 60 meters and has been traced over 350 meters at surface. So the 3.4% lithium oxide is definitely noteworthy. Are there any other observations of the Bounty pegmatite you can share since its initial discovery, and is there more to come?
Yeah, I think to me, yeah, the 3.48 definitely come out when we look at the assays grade, just based on the grade, and it's associated with spodumene. So we know that this pegmatite that we're looking at is spodumene bearing. But for me, from the exploration point of view, it's important to see we also identify clevelandite minerals in a pegmatite. That's a very it's showing that this pegmatite is very highly fractionated. So that's a really good sign to see that. And also, we identified that the quartz pods, which a lot of different deposits, they have the similar features when you are within that spodumene zonation. So we know we are in the right area, and then it's still open in all directions. This is just the first pegmatite we have identified in this area, and it's already 60 meters in width. We can continue chasing it both east-west, and also we gonna start looking into both north-south. Is there another subparallel dikes that could be running along this same structure? So this is a good starting point, having this grade, and we already identified spodumene at this pegmatite is phenomenal. Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are probably a few newbies to the natural resource investing that are watching and may not be familiar with terms like grab samples, channel samples, assays, etc. Without revealing any trade secrets, can you describe what is involved in determining something that is grab sample worthy? And on a very high level, can you talk the basic steps of a grab and channel sample program as kind of shown in the picture?
Right. So graph samples, you can think about is the first step where the prospector or geologist, when they have to walk around the field and they have to look for the outcrops. And then either if they found a pegmatites or the host rock of metasediments or metavolcanics, and that's where they use just a rock hammer and try to chip out some of the rocks and put them in the sample. That's a graph sample. So it's very localized. So at a GPS point, okay, that's where I'm going to collect samples and make some notes, record the lithology and the mineralogy of that rocks. And then when we found something that has more interest that we would like to explore more, that's where you can see in the pictures where we can use a rock saw, and then you cut a lines or the geo would draw lines along that outcrops, and usually perpendicular to the strike or the main direction, perpendicular to the main direction of the outcrops. And then we will use a rock saw to cut a continuous sampling channel across the outcrops, and then we'll be sampling maybe at a 1 million interval, and then it's also based on lithology as well. So it will give you a better overall understanding of the grade distributions, and also a bigger, larger rock sample size for each of the samples, compared to a graph sample will be a little bit more localized, where a channel samples will give you a continuous assays interval along the entire or half portion of the outcrops that you want to sample.
Excellent. And moving over to the last resort pegmatite on this geology map, there are zones of spodumene occurrences, and in the center zonation, we have values greater than 3% and as high as 5.11% lithium oxide, followed by what appears to be this kind of surrounding zone in that 2% range. Can you tell us a little bit more of the significance of this high-grade zonation and the outer zones?
Right. So I think that this gives us a kind of a early understanding or view of what we may gonna see when we continue to expand the last resort pegmatite. I think that's pretty neat to see that, okay, we have the quartz core where we mapped it on the figures there, and then most of the higher grade will be associated with that, and then that agrees with what Paul Baxter, when he was doing the mapping, he recognized this type of zonation and mineral change within the pegmatites. So I think that's very important from the exploration point of view. Again, we now have a good understanding what we will have to look for when we continue to prospect in this area. Yeah, to find that spodumene distribution and mineralization, but at the same time, we're finding the spot associated with the quartz core or quartz port that we called, and that's where we have more confidence. And referring to Graham talk about in the last geo chat, it's visually compelling, and it tells you a lot of the grade when you find spodumene, and then now if we find spodumene associated with the quartz pots, we know we are in the hotter part of the system.
Okay. Let's move on to the assay table. I've highlighted a few interesting data points. It's hard to not notice the very low ratio of potassium to rubidium. In my understanding, that's actually a good thing. I was actually told by a CEO of another lithium company, if you have ratios 20 and below, you pretty much drill it. Are these ratios of potassium to rubidium, in your opinion, a good indicator that this might be a location to drill test?
Definitely. I think KLB, I would say, is a good ratio, but it also we look at multiple things together. So we have low KLB, we have good lithium grade, spodumene, identify spodumene pegmatite. So I think with all that coming together, yeah, we interested, and I think that's our plan to drill it eventually once we get to the right point. Yeah.
Okay. As well, there are some high cesium values that came back in the assays. Any insights in how this indicator mineral may help define other potential targets?
Definitely. So I think we're getting a better handle at that background geochem signatures of the pegmatites now. with that good KRB ratio, and that's where we talk about we expecting more samples to come back, and then I'm actually curious to look at the some of our graph sample in the host rock. I think that's where we are gonna really establish that background geochem to see, okay, when we find spodumene bearing pegmatites, it's obvious we're going to sample it. But when we get to the areas, we have just elevated background numbers to let us know we are close to the next one. I think that's going to be very important for us to continue expanding this project.
Okay. And let's move over to the exploration corridor. I'd like to talk about these two spodumene bearing pegmatites and its scale. The Last Resort and the Bounty Gold pegmatites are 5 kilometers apart, and both sit in this 6-kilometer exploration corridor as it's seen here in this image. Now, a couple days ago, a neighbor to the east, Pioneer Lithium, announced a spodumene bearing pegmatite discovery, and it kind of sits close to your border there. Does this new discovery potentially extend the exploration corridor even further than the current 6 kilometers?
I would say so. I would say the 6 kilometers is more like a just looking at between the two pegmatites that we know compared to the orientation we measured, looking at the overall geology in the area to say that to look at the 6 kilometer trends. But then if we really took another step back to look at even much higher level, I think definitely our Victory project and also our Victory West project that we haven't really talked about, it has identical similar geological setting as what we have at the Victory Main as well. So if you look at the combination from Victory West to Victory Main, our untested exploration trend is much longer than that.
Okay. And this next question is one of personal curiosity. And it's just kind of a theory. Is it plausible that when spodumene crystallizes, it produces a fingerprint or a signature? And what I'm kind of getting at is, if it's part of the same system, is that exact same mineralization or sort of carbon copy of the rock structure observed in pegmatites kilometers away?
I would say so. At this point, that would definitely. It's just about you need that continued exploration and prospecting to really link up. Is last resort the same pegmatite or bounty gold? It could. I think we can say that it's within the same structures and also have the same source from the mineralization. But I think as we continue to explore, there could be local faulting or whatever to link up different pegmatites. And I think that's where we're going to do that continuous exploration between the two pegmatites to find that additional spodumene bearing pegmatites to really link up the two pegmatites.
Okay. Let's talk district scale and infrastructure. The Victory project, as you mentioned earlier, there's a couple of different project blocks. We have the Victory Main, West, South, and Victory East. The project is located just 40 kilometers east of Kenora and 70 kilometers west of Dryden. Now, I might sound like a broken record, but it seems like there's this common theme with Beyond projects as it relates to excellent infrastructure. Allan, can you maybe highlight some of the nearby infrastructure and how this access bodes well for things like year-round exploration, potential drilling, and then access for the mining and transportation of lithium ore?
Sure. This kind of reminds me of, many years ago when the Hemlo discovery was made. Basically, finding it in the ditch beside the Trans-Canada Highway is not really a hardship, that's for sure. And this is very similar for us. This and other projects within a 100-kilometer radius here, we've got, almost, I think, eight to 10 different projects that have really high potential. So it gives us the ability to sort of work all these areas with one crew from a central point, and should it be successful and go into production somewhere down the road, the infrastructure is second to none. You can see by this slide that you're showing here right now, we're literally on the highway and the railroad. So you can actually hear the trucks going by when you're working on the properties here. So I think we're really fortunate in that although our grades are really significant here, they're very high and we're really pleased with it. You could get away with a lot of lower grades because your transportation costs are going to be really minimal. And there's all kinds of facilities for crews, so you don't need to go in and set up an actual camp. It's not necessary. You can stay in a hotel or a motel nearby to almost any of these projects. They're all drivable. You don't need helicopter support or any of that. So your exploration costs are minimal, but your exposure is maximum. So we're really fortunate. This situation is almost a dream come true for us. Everything that we are really hot on right now is all within driving distance. I'd say 100 kilometer radius. So it's pretty phenomenal, but pretty rare and lucky for us. We're very, very, very thankful.
Okay. And in regards to drilling and further assays, Bonanza started the process preparing drilling and trenching exploration permits for the Victory project. There's an additional 32 grab samples and 28 channel samples that are still pending from the lab. How do you see these playing into the potential, Q1 2024 drill program?
Well, I'll answer some of that, and Lawrence can answer the rest. So to be clear, the drilling we've done at Deer Falls, we're doing with the Winky drill, and you can do that without having an actual drill permit, which the government gives you. But in order to get a permit to do proper diamond drilling and other more extensive, more invasive work on the properties, you have to make a special application. We expect that for these projects, we'll be making that application by the end of December. However, that doesn't give you the permit. That's the application for the permit. And there's a process that all companies must go through. The government states it's 3 to 6 months to get a permit for drilling. So, that's just the way that it is. We don't do that. We can't speed it up and we can't slow it down. It'll be what it'll be. But we can control when we apply for those permits. And the reason we haven't been able to apply for them earlier is simply because this whole exploration program is designed to set up drill targets. That's what it's all about. That's how it works. And you can't begin with your results. You got to end with your results. So we're still getting results back from the lab. We're still, we're still working on all of our 2023 projects, putting our database together. We can clearly see some that we do want to drill. Obviously, Victory and Deer Falls, we want to drill, and hopefully others will fall into that category as well. But to be clear, it is a process, and we didn't design it, but we have to go by it and adhere to it, and we will. But we will be applying for permits to diamond drill these projects by the end of December 2023. And Lawrence can probably elaborate a little more on that as well.
No, I think I will summarize that very well. Yeah, that's our plan. We're just getting our assay back, and we'll continue to put out the news flow that as we talk about in the press release, and we'll compile that data, we'll review those, and then apply for the permits, and then we'll do a proper technical review and planning for our next programs.
Okay. And it was mentioned in the news release that Beyond expects a steady news flow in the coming weeks and well into 2024. Besides these samples at Victory, or from Victory, is there anything else shareholders can look forward to as it relates to other projects such as Air Falls, Wheeza, and Case Lake?
Go ahead, Lawrence, because there's a myriad of different things we're still waiting for, but Lawrence can best describe them.
Yeah, I would say we'll get the channel sampling from Victory, channel samplings from the Air Force, the Vinky drilling samples from Air Force, and also while we were doing those work at Air Force and Victory, we still had a crew at that time prospecting other projects like around the Mackenzie, Ogani Lake, and also Wheeza Lake, Case Lake. Those samples are still pending in the lab, and we are expecting the results coming back in the next few weeks.
Okay.
I might also add, Ravi, as the season is drawing to a close for most explorers, junior explorers in Ontario, we're seeing other data and information provided by other companies that's also very helpful for us. So you have to look at the big picture. Some of our neighbors have had successes. That's really important to us in our plan. So that's like a compilation of data that Lawrence is actually quite awesome at. But you have to have the material to work with. So that's going to help us to identify other things, and we'll be happy to share all of that information when it's available with shareholders as well.
Okay. And before I wrap up, I want to thank the team at Beyond for putting together actually these geo chats. I think they're very helpful for us non-geos to understand what goes on behind the scenes. I will drop a link in the description for both of those chats, and I highly suggest that people do watch through both of them. As well, I encourage folks to sign up to Beyond's newsletter. They sent one out, I believe, this morning, and perfect timing because it looks like Beyond posted an updated corp presentation. And there's a lot of good updates in that presentation, so definitely take a read. Well, Allan and Lawrence, I want to thank you for sharing more about these amazing results from the Victory Project with my viewers. There is still more to come in 2023, and 2024 is rounding out nicely. And I do expect a few more Christmas gifts under the tree from the team at Beyond, and I look forward to the next update.
Thank you very much, Ravi. We really appreciate your interviews as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and have yourself a great rest of the day.